Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have ETH outperforming the majors. It is no longer worth 2.3K. It's not worth 2.4K. It is worth 3.1 thousand. United States dollars is up 6%. Bitcoin is holding at 118K. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about Cantor Fitzgerald being close to a $4 billion SPAC with OG Bitcoin whale Adam Back. And then finally, Pump has surged around 15% to 6.7 billion. I think it might be a touch lower now. After $30 million worth of token buybacks, we'll be discussing that asset and some of the continued revenue meta and what the implications are for this kind of buyback of the token, how that might affect the rest of the industry as well. As usual, we'll be talking other big topics, anything that's important in the last 24 hours, price action, and where we think attention is going, plus anything else. We've got Legendary in the co-host seat with me today. We're ready to get into it, but just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. The market is very, very risky. We do not know anything for sure, even though it might sound like we do. It might sound like we do sometimes. It sounds like we know what we're talking about. We don't. Not all the time anyway. So please proceed with caution. Exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary. It's Wednesday. It's the 16th of July. How you doing? How you feeling?
Jim, doing quite amazing. What a lovely day for ETH holders. Very, very happy about that. Had a lovely morning. Went to my tax advisor's office, not to talk taxes, but just to chat with the people there on Hyperliquid, other theses that we have in the market. Nice coffee and alpha chat in the morning. Quite like that. And feeling very ready to see this ETH pump. Feels good.
That sounds pretty fun. I think one thing I miss a lot I don't miss it in the sense that the previous places that I worked, I didn't enjoy the office environment or being in a place, because if you're not inspired by the people you're around and, by the work that you're doing, then it's not really great. But I think it would be awesome to be able to check in an IRL spot every day. Like if we were for a period of time in the same place, being able to go into a studio, like an actual studio, and prepare the show together, talk about whatever we've been doing overnight, any trades we've put on. There's a special magic to IRL, I think, which is definitely lost, both in even the research and the conversation and probably the show as well, which is why so many podcasts actually refuse to do online. Even now, they'll just be like, no, we do IRL only, because it's just a different magic, What do you think about that as a proposition for one day in the future, Ledge?
There is a magic to IRL, but no way I'm going to do this every day. Going back to an office every day, once
what if it was a modern market studio?
No, once every 2 weeks. Dude, I'm so happy that I broke free of the 9 to 5 to be able to work from the office that I built inside my own home. And I'm just not willing to leave the house, even if it's a cool studio. I go there once a week, once every 2 weeks, chat with people, but no way I'm going to do this daily.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think I would, actually. I think I would do it because it would be so much on my own terms, obviously, because it's our company, that it would be enjoyable enough. However, I get it. It's funny. You break out of the thing only to reconstruct it in your own way.
To
some degree.
That's exactly what I didn't want to do. If we were to live in the same house, and the studio's in the same house, and I only have to go downstairs, that's different. But as soon as I have to leave the house and travel and lose time commuting, I'm like, no, it's exactly what I don't want to have in my life anymore.
So is that the proposition? Me, you, Brad, we do some co-living, mega modern, instead of mega mafia cohorts, we have a mega modern market cohort in the same place.
Yeah, we buy the modern market palace and get going there.
Oh, straight to palace. Why not?
Why not? It's a bull
market's
market.
going well. I was thinking maybe a modern market studio, but okay, straight to the palace. Why not?
If ETH were at 1.3K, it would be the modern market tent. But ETH is
yeah, we could go camping.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as you said, the market is going nicely. So we're thinking about the palaces potentially. If things continue to go well, let's get people up to speed as usual on what they need to know, starting with the majors. We have Bitcoin up percent to $118,000. ETH is outperforming by a long way, actually, up 6% to 3.1K. Bitcoin's up 9% on the week. ETH is up 20% on the week. Got to give a shout out to XRP though, $2.95, only up 1% on the day, but up 25% on the week. So XRP is actually the major, outperforming all other majors over the last 7 days. BNB is up a couple of percent to 693. Solana is up 4% to $166, only up 8% on the week, underperforming all of the rest of the majors on the week. And then looking at Hyperliquid and Sui, Hyperliquid is up 1% or so to 47.60, and Sui is up 1% to $4. Also, again, Sui's up 35% on the week, whereas Hype is up 22. So just to give you some context there. Getting into the meme coin side, a lot of green again. Got Doge up 5%, Pepe up 5%, Bonk up. Actually, let me just refresh this to make sure that is accurate. The numbers are looking high. Sometimes when the numbers are looking high, I just have to refresh to make sure that it's real. It is real. Bonk is up 18% as well. Pump is up 20%. Pengu up another 7%, up 131% on the week. I don't think there's any token in the market that is, relatively well known that has performed as strongly as Pengu in the last 7 days. Trump's up 6%. SPX is up another 22%. I think that might be past all-time high now for SPX. Murad's coin up to $1.80. WIF is up 9%, back over $1. Mog is up 8% too. Useless is up a couple of percent to almost 35 cents now. You guys get the picture. It's a very, very green day. Ledge, coming to you quickly here. We were talking a little bit off show about like ego and starting to get a bit happy with yourself, which maybe you can pat yourself on the back if you've taken some profits as well. But I think it's very easy in this situation to start thinking either on the founder side, oh, what a great founder you are for the price of your token going up, or on the trader side, like, oh, what a great trader I am for having a coin and it being up 20%. When in reality, sometimes, like, look, the market is just moving all this stuff together, and sometimes you just got to embrace that, but also be humble in the sense that the market's giving this to you. Haven't really had to do a great deal for it. Sure, if you caught the Pengu bottom after that relentless sell-off, then fair enough. Like, really, really well done. That was a hard thing to pick, especially because it was just so relentless, from like 4 bill down to 4 or 5 bill down to like 700 mil. But if you're now just like riding this up, like a lot of people are, take what the market gives, kind of stay humble with it is my kind of take. Ledge, what are your thoughts in that direction?
Yeah, very, very much agree with that. Like, it is not difficult to make money in this market. The thing I think that one can be proud of themselves is having liquidity ready and deploying that into the market. But I think it's important to be happy with your wins, but I also think it's important to acknowledge that you're not a genius because you're making money in this market. None of us is. It's just everything goes up. And there's a very high likelihood that whatever you buy as part of it, everything goes up as well. Now, if you're the one person who's deployed a ton of money in Pengu and are outperforming everyone else, GG. If you're the one person who's deployed money in XLM and you're also outperforming everyone else because XLM Stellar is up 72% on the week and basically the second best thing to buy after Pengu weekly performance, which sounds weird to say, then okay. But like, if you're just making money, great, but it doesn't make you a genius. And I think it's important to like acknowledge that, to not fall for hubris and then proceed to lose it all.
Yeah, and it's also not real unless you take some profits, right? Like, I'm not, and that's for everyone to determine the best point in time. I think in January, because when I reflect on the mania that we went through post-Trump presidency into inauguration, it felt very right that there was a point in time there it was like, okay, time to stable up, especially with the Trump meme coin. Like, it just felt really, really right there. There was like a specific moment in time almost. It was like, right, here's clearly an offering to you as a point to take profits. And if you haven't done, or well, actually, throughout that period of time, it all felt very, very like a huge mania. So it felt right to take profits like consistently, but there was that big blow off moment as well. Whereas now, if I'm thinking forward, I'm not sure that the same moment exists. I guess maybe point one for me to check in is like, well, moving a bit further out, I think. So there's a few things. Be curious for your thoughts here before we continue the roundup. I know I've stopped a bit early here to get into this. I think there's three things. One, you've obviously got interest rates, and like the J Powell situation. Like, is he staying? Is he going? To be honest, I think the market's pricing in him either cutting or him leaving at some point in time already. Whether it's perfectly pricing that in or not, I actually don't think that's one of the most important things now, because the market's moving in a way that it knows that it's coming, and the whole point is the market's forward looking, right? So sure, maybe if it was going to be super aggressive, or we get an idea that it's going to be super aggressive cuts, then the market can move more. But I actually think we're already starting to price that in. The thing that I'm looking at as well is maybe the midterms on the political side, in the same way the inauguration was like this big moment, and post-Trump election was like a big moment. I think the inauguration is like a date that I'm looking forward to, and I don't know when that will be. That's 2026. And then maybe just before that, something I'm keeping an eye on is just waiting for the summer period to be over, and like for people to come back to work. Like historically, the summer is usually quieter. We're obviously just pumping everything at the moment, and I want to get a sense of whether people will come back and want to pile in, or whether remember how this is the interesting comparison I've been thinking. Be very curious for your thought on this, and everything I've said. Remember how in COVID, everyone, because they were out of their usual situation, they just went like a bit insane and just bought everything. Is there a world in which people have developed, not like an evolutionary way, but people are so mobile, be able to buy these things wherever they are, that over the summer, because they're less distracted with work or whatever, and they don't need to be locked in, you get an opportunity actually to buy more and go more, like get yourself more exposure, rather than back in September when people are kind of have more stuff to be focusing on and everyone's concentrating, and then you actually can't concentrate on the other stuff as much. Curious for your thoughts there. That's just like, I don't know, that might be like contrary to all behavior before, but that's kind of what I'm wondering. Curious for your thoughts, sir.
Yeah, many things to unpack there. Starting with the last thing, I do think that just the fact that we have these ETFs by an institutional buying coming in, there is not really a summer break. So, I mean, ETFs are not going to take a break. Institutions are not going to take a break from setting up treasury companies just because it is the summer. Maybe you said quite the opposite. If you have like a typical business to run and the summer is a bit slower, you have no more time to think about your hype treasury, whatever that is. So I feel like because the structure of the market changes, summer break becomes a bit less relevant. Like, sell in May and go away, come back September, October hasn't really been true under the Trump administration to a statistically significant degree. That is the one thing. In terms of the forward-looking part, which you also had mentioned, like how long this will go, I do think that the midterms are basically the event where I would think this cycle is going to be over. But now the question becomes, how much ahead of time will the market price this in? Because the market is obviously a forward-looking. Is this like 6 months, 9 months? How much until we basically price in that maybe the midterms will mark the end of this insane cycle? So I think that's my gut feeling, that moving towards Q4, maybe Q1 2026, depending on how the summer will perform, would be a good time frame to think about taking significant chips off the table. But that's with the information that I have today, obviously that thinking can change and will change in the future. But this is now my current mental model on how I am thinking about this cycle.
Yeah. Interesting. I think there's always a tendency to want to push things further out, right? Like there's always, you come up with one mental model and then you get there and then you kind of want to push it a little bit further. If I'm being true to myself, like as things stand now, obviously you review it when the time comes around. But I do think maybe even as soon as September, October could be a time to like really, really reassess, because this is why you are seeing some real signs of froth. Something like whiff strategy being created. I know that's fun. I know we report on it because it's like a fun thing. But the more treasury companies that get created, and again, we actually spoke yesterday about how I didn't think, certain Bitcoin treasury companies trading under their net asset value is that big of a deal, because I think that, they can get bought OTC, like they'll get absorbed by other companies, in my opinion. And they're not going to end up having to liquidate everything, because the strongest ones will actually retain their premium, in my opinion. That's just like my thinking at the moment. So I don't think it will be that disastrous if other ones try and fail, because they're not going to end up like having to mass liquidate the market. And I don't think strategy is going to have to do that either, which would obviously be a disaster. But when you start to see like random other treasury companies get created, when you start to see things like whiff strategy get created, I'm starting to wonder, like, okay, well, obviously we're getting further down the risk curve here, and like more and more ludicrous things are happening, basically. And we're very desensitized to those kind of things. I think now we're just like, yeah, sure, a meme coin strategy thing has been created, no problem. But I think it's just something to keep an eye on. It's starting to happen. So let's see how we go. I still think we've got time to run. And maybe we'll talk more about ETH in a second, because it feels like the corporates and Wall Street are just really starting to latch on to that. And I really want to let that one ride for a little bit, but we'll talk about that more in a sec. So I gave you a bit of a rundown on the main stuff. Let's just get into the headlines themselves, so you know what we're talking about today. We'll be talking about ETH outperformance, the majors outperforming other majors. ETH's up to 3.1k, up 6% against the others. Cantor Fitzgerald is close to a $4 billion SPAC with OG Bitcoin whale Adam Back. Interesting details there to discuss. And then finally, Pump surged 15% yesterday. Obviously one of the most prominent token launch pads, to 6.7 billion after $30 million of token buybacks. So we'll reflect on that activity, what it means for the token and for the rest of the industry, as token buybacks become the thing that you need to do, it seems, if you want to be considered a relevant and important token. So we'll discuss that as well. Ledge, NFT side's been heating up. So what do we need to know on that side?
Yes, absolutely. The Pudgy Penguins, first of all, are doing very, very well again. Basically corrected the dip that they had yesterday, up another 7%, back above 14 ETH, and that very, very significantly, because they're at 14.7 ETH, top bid on Blur being at 14.3 ETH, which puts them at 64% on the week. And the Pengu token, as we said, is still ahead of that. But it seems like the Pudgies have appetite to close in. Same for little Pudgies. They're up 7% on the day, 47% on the week as well. And yet again, the rest of the market sees a good amount of green, but it's not like a couple days ago where everything was up. So Milady's up 12%, 2.6 ETH, Doodle's up another 5%. At a 1.07 ETH floor, Bored Apes are down 1%, 11.25 ETH floor. Azuki's up 2%. The Cato Genesis NFTs, however, they are moving down a bit. They're down 3% at 1.4 ETH. Still, I would say a very, very good day for NFTs, but it's not everything is running up. And it's interesting that we see still a good amount of green, given the fact that ETH is performing so aggressively, which when ETH went to 3K was not the case, because then NFTs had a pretty red day.
Good set of points. Just a quick one on the NFT side. It's definitely not front and center for me to, I mean, I say this as one of the largest holders of bad buns on Mega ETH. But like in general, I would say to try to get exposure to ETH or to participate in the market, like looking for gains, like I would say NFTs are not one of the things that I am specifically looking to participate in. I think I've actually just turned into a bit of a collector slash, I think the community aspect for a new chain that you're bullish on, I think is an interesting way to get exposure to it before a token is live. Um, are you looking at the asset class in general, Ledge? Like what would you be doing to capture this, if at all, or is there just more opportunity elsewhere?
I mean, I kind of made the post that, we're one NFT treasury company away from our JPEGs going to Valhalla.
You think that'll happen?
Maybe.
For punks though, right?
Yeah, or maybe someone sets up a treasury and buys a different series of NFTs altogether. I don't know. I think we could see that happen. The question becomes, do I think that this is a top signal or not? I still like NFTs as an asset class, but for me, I just don't see the biggest opportunity in there. But it also has more to do with me now preferring more liquid things, me preferring things where I can go in with bigger size. And that's the point that I always have to make. Being in a situation that buying NFTs is a huge tax disadvantage for me. Like I can swap crypto to crypto tax free, can buy every meme and trade profits back into stables and not pay taxes. But if I trade NFTs and sell them under a year, within the year, then I am in the income tax brackets, which go up to 55%. So this inherent disadvantage makes me not want to spend too much time looking at that asset class.
Fair enough. Yeah, what do I think? I think the liquid opportunities are better at the moment, personally. I mean, sure, penguins are absolutely ripping, and there'll be some other good stuff too. I really like them as an asset class, to be honest. I still love NFTs. I've always said, like, I don't think they're going away anywhere. They've never gone away. They've always been super expensive to buy NFTs. They're just not the mania that we've seen before. But I think they will have their time. They'll have their time when ETH is strong. But man, one reflection I had before we hit the rest of the roundup: how important is ETH for the whole market? Like, hype can kind of exist now in its own plane. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Even Solana will kind of do its own thing. But if this is what it feels like, ETH needs to be strong for the rest of the market to move. That feels like incredibly obvious to me now. Do you have a thought there?
Do you think that? Do you think that if ETH is now super, super strong, this is what will lead into an alt season? Or do you think that we see the strength in ETH just as a result of the fact that we have SharpLink basically now becoming the biggest holder, is already the biggest holder of ETH? We have massive ETH inflows. Like, do we think this is the typical setup of Bitcoin dominance going down, ETH going up, and then altcoin season? Or do we just think the reason why ETH is going up is all that institutional interest? And what does it mean for altcoins?
I think if ETH goes up because of institutional interest, which I think is happening, then yeah, I think a lot of the alts have way more of a chance. I think as I've been tracking this stuff every single day, it feels like it's incredibly important to a lot of the market, especially the ETH coins, that ETH is strong. Like if ETH is not strong, everything looks incredibly weak. And when ETH is strong like it is now, it gives the whole ecosystem like so much more life. So I think it's incredibly important. So if you do believe that ETH is going to 4K, which I think we do, then, you know, if you're in the ETH ecosystem of coins, so long as they're not like terrible ones, you're probably going to be fine. In fact, you're probably going to do very nicely. So that was just a final reflection for me there. Getting into the rest of the roundup before we get to the main headlines, got some big headlines today. We've got the Plasma public sale, which will be announced to begin tomorrow, Thursday, July the 9th, 17th at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And testnet went live for Plasma yesterday. Obviously, a lot of people are looking forward to that. Backed by Bitfinex and Paolo from Tether. It's kind of very, very much billed as the main stablecoin chain of the future. Obviously, ETH is also being billed as that, but this is an attempt to kind of maybe usurp Tron as an example of a very payment-focused network where stablecoins get moved around a lot and that makes a ton of money. So that'll be interesting to see because of its connections with Tether. Standard Chartered will allow institutional clients to trade Bitcoin and ETH through its UK branch. I think that was described as one of the first banks to allow that over here, but maybe in Europe too. Crypto Week in the US begins poorly, with all of the acts we mentioned yesterday not failing to pass the House. That's the Crypto Genius Act, Clarity Act, and Anti-CBDC Act failing to pass. Peter Thiel revealed to have 9.1 stake in Tom Lee's Bitminer ETH accumulation vehicle. There's two main ETH accumulation vehicles right now. You have Tom Lee's Bitminer and you have Joseph Lubin's SBET, Sharplink Gaming. These are the two that seem to be going, that have the biggest, I don't know how we describe it, the biggest mind share, the biggest reputation, the biggest leaders covering being ETH accumulation vehicles in the way that MicroStrategy has been for Bitcoin. We obviously spoke about SBET last week. Bitminer is this other one. We'll dive into some of the Tom Lee's thesis there in just a little bit today, given ETH's outperformance. Big news, US DOJ, Department of Justice, drops the investigation into Polymarket. Again, really giving a clear signal to people who are operating in crypto in different ways. Just you've got the floor, guys. Take it away. Go out and execute. We're not prosecuting you anymore. Kinetic attracts $420 million into its liquid hype staking token K-Hype in less than 1 day. I got into that yesterday. There's no caps on the Kinetic side. This is the liquid staking token for Hype, and we'll be very happy to speak to Wardaddy about this tomorrow. He's obviously on the Kinetic team, so get the breakdown of what might be good there, what opportunities you can take advantage of on Hyperliquid. I think that'll be interesting. And then finally, I thought this was cool. You'll like this. Legendary Wasabi launches leverage trading on tokenized stocks, and simultaneously on Solana, Camino integrates stocks as loan collateral. I think that's really, really cool. And I don't know if that's been enabled on any other chain yet. So jumping to you straight away, probably for your thoughts on that, Ledge. Anything else catching your attention there before we hit the headlines?
Multiple thoughts here. Maybe spend a couple minutes on the roundup today. That stocks as a loan collateral is super important because
it's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, traditional brokers offer that. Like, it's something we have in TradFi. It's something that I did when I jumped on the Circle trade, and I didn't want to sell my S&P 500 and MSCI World thingies. I was max borrowed against my stock portfolio to do that, which is a thing that is a default expectation to have that as a part of the feature set in your broker. So it's super cool that we are catching up to that and that we are making stocks a productive collateral, because as a result of that, it means we are seeing them as a real asset, obviously, that it gets the full DeFi treatment. And that in return means you can do more with stocks on chain than you can do off chain. Because the thing you can't do off chain is you can't pick your MicroStrategy and Tesla and provide an LP for that. You can't do that. Like, you can't be the market for that. And you can't do that on chain and farm some yield on top if you want to. So this is, I think, a very, very big news. Then the other thing I wanted to add, give me a sec to bring up my Truth Social tab, is on the Crypto Week starting poorly. It's been a post by President Donald J. Trump. There we go. I'm in the Oval Office with 11 of the 12 congressmen and women necessary to pass the Genius Act. And after a short discussion, they have all agreed to vote tomorrow morning in favor of the rule. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson was at the meeting via telephone and looks forward to taking the votes as early as possible. I want to thank the congressmen and women for the quick and positive response. So yes, it did start poorly, but it looks like we're going to have more positive news from the regulatory side today.
Wait, that's kind of funny though. It's like, wait, so independently, when they're using their own independent brains, they just said no, and then the president just pulled them into the office, had a little chat with them, and then it's just like, yep, don't worry, guys, we had a chat. They've changed their minds. Don't worry about it. We'll get this all done.
Yeah, I think it's really important to him, the whole crypto agenda. So
I was more saying it's funny from a democratic perspective. It's just like
that.
It's just like, okay, you didn't do what I wanted, so time to have a chat in the office. And now you've changed your mind. Wonderful. That's good.
Look,
Uh,
even if this is the case, I appreciate the honesty and transparency of that. Like that you get a look into how politics is working. It's pretty it's cool to have that level of transparency because you wouldn't have other presidents or leaders of a state doing that as publicly to share, oh yeah, I pulled them in the office and they changed their minds. Whatever the reasoning is, whatever happened. In the chat, typically you wouldn't have any idea that this chat even existed.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he does just tweet everything all the time, and it's kind of entertaining as well. Let's be honest. Although it does kind of overtake the market, where you just have to listen to what he says all the time and make trades on the back of it. So it's like good in some ways, bad in some ways, but it is what it is. The market's moving up regardless, and that's kind of what we like, if we're being honest. Right. That was the roundup. So that's a lot of stuff. Just one thought for me, I completely agree with you. I think leverage trading on tokenized stocks is really, really cool. So shout out to Wasabi for shipping that. And as you say, borrowing against your loan collateral is something which I think is going to be increasingly important. I've been thinking this is the first cycle where I've increasingly thought it's important to have Bitcoin, not just because it's important to have Bitcoin, but because it it's the most pristine asset of crypto assets, and you can borrow against it at a relatively decent rate, although it can be a bit volatile. You'll get the best rate against Bitcoin basically because it is the best asset, and that allows you to then go and do different things. And so long as you do that responsibly, I think that's a good way to unlock the capital in a safe way. So that's definitely something I've been thinking about more, and I think stocks will be in a similar vein, to be honest, because you'll be buying quality stock. Well, you'll maybe be buying quality stocks, so maybe you can get great rates on those too. Okay, that is the main stuff. That was the main roundup. We've got a bunch of interesting headlines today, starting with ETH outperforming. Ledge, what do we need to know here? I saw one of the best charts I've ever seen drawn by ETH master Tom Lee, CEO of Fund Strategy, I think. What do we need to know here? What's going on with this chart for the people who are just listening in? You're going to describe this in a beautiful way, because this is really a piece of art. If you're not actually listening in, just a reminder, we are on video on X across all our personals, across the Modern Market account, and on YouTube. You got to see this chart. It's a real work of art. Ledge, what do we need to know?
Yes, absolutely. I'm not going to start with the chart though, because if I start with the other things, I can actually say things of substance before you get to this chart. So the thing I want to start with are the net inflows into the ETH ETFs, which have had a very significant stretch over the last 5 days, all in the multi-hundreds of millions, 200, 380, 204, 259, and $192 million yesterday. Putting that into perspective with the Bitcoin ETFs, especially for the last 2 days, this is pretty impressive. Like 2 days ago, 260 in ETH and 297 in Bitcoin. Yesterday, 200 in ETH and 400 million BTC. Like we are getting way, way closer to the Bitcoin ETF flows, which has never been the case. Like the discrepancy has been so much higher. So this is an extraordinary change in flows for me. So I wanted to point that out. The other thing I want to touch on before I get into the chart is obviously Polymarket. What price will Ethereum hit in July? This is a market with $6.6 million in volume. Consensus is 3.3K, 74%, and 26% think we could see 3.7K in July. So a more bullish outlook than I honestly would have expected. I didn't expect things to move so quickly. I mean, Rahim put us on the spot yesterday, right? And asked for end of year predictions, and I said 3.8K. I mean, we still could tank and get there. So I wanted to point this sentiment out as well. But now, getting into this Tom Lee chart, I'm going to start with a bit of the caption first. So he says, on Ethereum, ETH is up 22% past month, down 9% year to date. ETH range bound since 2021, but the rise of stablecoins, Circle, USDT, and Wall Street tokenizing real-world assets is driving up demand for the ETH upside. And
so this is the big thesis that Tom Lee, who is pretty famous on Wall Street for recommending big Bitcoin buys back when Bitcoin was way, way lower many years ago, crushed that trade and got a lot of respect for that. I think now his focus has shifted to ETH specifically and was really kind of championing ETH via his Bitminer ETH accumulation vehicle, and he's produced this chart on screen, which is what Legendary is about to beautifully explain.
Yes, so on this bit convoluted chart, we see the ETH price from 2018 to now, and we see in the bottom that it hit in 2019 at $9 and the 55 and all the range up to 4.9K. And then from that top on, it has been range bound basically over the last 5 years. And then the chart finishes by showing that we had a bottom at 1.385K for ETH. And there's a big arrow moving up aggressively with four red question marks as to what the price could be, because the arrow is so big that it leaves the chart, and the chart on the side ends at 7K ETH. So this is what we can see from this chart. So if ETH is to break out, basically we would obviously go above all-time highs, and according to this chart, go above 7K. Tom Lee also made some other interesting points and that I want to pick out from this thread. One was saying that crypto is a leading indicator for equities. Bitcoin leads the S&P 500 by a month, and then posting all-time highs in Bitcoin, then followed by all-time highs in the S&P 500. So thinking that this recent breakout in BTC is also a good sign for the S&P 500 if that were to follow the same pattern breakout over the next month. And then a specific point on ETH. ETH is a leading indicator for small caps. And that's the thing that I never thought about. So if BTC is the indicator for the S&P 500, ETH is the indicator for small caps. And the thesis here is that ETH is benefiting from a general rise in risk appetite. The small caps and ETH move in sync, and tailwinds are building for small caps with Fed cuts set later this year, because Fed cuts mean rising liquidity, which is positive for risk assets.
Interesting. I don't know if that is the case though. Like I think this is a nice way to frame it, and not to disagree with the Wall Street Titan, but is it like, do you think it is the case that ETH, or sorry, just talking about Bitcoin for the second, like the stocks are at all-time high. Like they've absolutely ripped this year across the board. Is Bitcoin leading that in some way, in some meaningful way? I feel like we look at the market every day and it's not like Bitcoin moved first, I don't think. But then, we do focus more on the crypto side and less on the stock side. Do you have a view there?
I think BTC was a bit earlier to break out, but the S&P 500 had hit an all-time high the previous week, and then BTC pumped, but BTC was already on an uptrend. So it might have not been as clear this time. But what I do think is true is the one study that we looked at, I'm going to be able to find it now, done by Goldman, and it was looking at how different assets recover after either catastrophic or geopolitically worldwide relevant events such as Ukraine invasion, COVID dip. And what showed very, very clearly is that makes a ton of sense that BTC is the asset that people sell off first, but also the asset that bounces back and rebounds the quickest. I think that BTC did rebound like within 14 days on average, and stocks took way longer. So if this thesis is true, and it probably also might make sense that if BTC breaks out, and as a result of something that is positive for the overall market, that stocks will follow, but BTC is a bit faster. But I think these timeframes, or this potential edge that you have there, is certainly going away. A, because trading BTC becomes so much more institutionalized with ETFs, and B, if this really were a thing, But every time BTC is breaking out, stocks would break out as well. Then that would be, this arbitrage opportunity would basically be closed pretty quickly now that TradFi has access to buy stocks and BTC using the same tools.
Okay. Yeah, that was just something I was thinking about. I actually think the speed is gonna. I actually agree with the speed in that crypto probably reacts fastest, 24/7 liquid markets. It makes sense that it does. I think the gap probably changes in future though, as more stuff actually comes on chain. People get to react faster, 24/7 eventually. Once they get around the administrative hurdles of like getting stocks on chain, I think so. We'll monitor that. One final thought on the ETH conversation though, because ETH is the winner of the day for sure, maybe even the winner of the week, maybe going to be the winner of the month potentially. What do we like here more, Legendary? ETH, the asset on chain bought in your crypto wallet, or how do we like things like Bitminer? I don't know if you can pull up Bitminer stock and SBET stock. Remember, Bitminer is the stock from Tom Lee, who is, we've just described as someone who's super well respected on Wall Street, really championing ETH now. He's the chairman there, going to be accumulating as much ETH as possible. Whereas SBET, Sharplink Gaming, is the one by Joseph Lubin, CEO of, or leader of Consensus, and they're buying a ton of ETH as well. So what's the things we need to know about these two? What's the comparison between them at the moment? Are there any others that we like in that respect? Full disclosure, I think you fully traded in and out of SBET last week, which was a great trade. Went from like $18, $19 to, I don't know when you sold out. I'm still in it, bought it like 20, 33 now, potentially, when I last checked.
You are not up to date on my SBET position.
Okay.
Yeah. We talked before the show, for context for the people listening. And you told me that SBET is up even more. Let's bring up the chart. SBET closed at $29. It's up another 14% on the pre-market to $33. And as you said, I traded out at $25 because I was like happy to book my like 25-ish% win. But while the intro music was playing, I traded back in again. I'll double the size of my previous trade.
I see.
I think if ETH keeps running and they have so much ETH and the premium to the net asset value is quote unquote only a 2x, why not hold it for a bit longer? Why not see if it can run a bit more?
That's my thinking.
Yeah. So I missed some profits obviously by trading in and out, but let's see what it does. On bit mining, up 70% on the week. Obviously the chart doesn't look like that because during the last 7 days we had the spike to $10, but it did go down all the way to 3 point something dollars, and now we are back up to $4 something when this high is 5. But yes, this is
And what are the two market caps of these?
66 and 2 bill, 66M and 2 bill for Sharplink.
Why is the gap so big? It's crazy big difference, no?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we need to double check into like why the gap is so big. We need to see the thing we're always trying to look for is what are the assets under management versus the market cap, I guess. And then there are also all these raises that they're doing, and you want to just be sure that they're not selling the stock as well, which I think maybe some companies will do. But
wait, I have to interrupt and correct myself because I'm an idiot and I brought up the wrong Bitmine.
Oh.
The actual Bitmine, the correct one is up 20% on the pre-market. There we go. Sorry, that was my bad. It's up 20% on the pre-market, closed at $39, up to $48, wow. And basically at the same market cap, 2.06 bill for the correct one and 2.07 for Sharplink. I had another Bitmine company open, which was not the right one. My bad.
Gosh. Okay. Thanks for that clarification.
Which also pumped 70% over the last 5 days, though.
So they're both kind of doing the same, to be honest. Interesting. Anyway, I think that's enough on the topic. We've kind of expressed our view and shared our thought that if you're not holding ETH on chain, but you want the ETH exposure, it feels like a good one to ride. Like if you believe that ETH is going to 4K in the next month or two or whatever, SBET probably does well as Bitminer. If ETH does badly, then you do badly. So that's the very kind of straightforward decision that you're trying to make there for your trade. I think a bunch of people entered into that over the weekend or a few days before. So well done for doing that. Getting into the next headline, we have Cantor Fitzgerald being close to $4 billion SPAC with OG Bitcoin whale Adam Back. So this is the news that Cantor Equity Partners is in late stage talks with Back to buy between $3 and $4 billion worth of Bitcoin, according to the Financial Times. The deal would follow Cantor's first Bitcoin financing deals, which closed on May the 27th with Maple Finance and Falcon X. This is actually a deal that's being done by Brandon Lutnick, the chairman of global finance firm Cantor Fitzgerald and son of United States Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, you'll know. So Cantor Equity Partners is talking to Back to buy all of this Bitcoin. It's a special purpose acquisition company that closed on $200 million from an initial public offering in January. Just some context on Back. This is reported by The Block. Back is one of the few individuals cited in the 2008 Bitcoin white paper as he developed the proof of work system Hashcash that proved foundational for Bitcoin's mining concept. Back also co-founded and serves as CEO of Blockstream for the blockchain technology firm Blockstream. So this is like a huge amount that is pretty interesting. And it shows that there will be more. There will be more SPACs coming. I think Cantor are involved. The other one that I think people are really excited for, I think is going to be a big deal, is the Cantor Tether partnership. I can't remember the name of that one now, but I think that's one that I believe people think will be a really big deal. I'm just searching for it here, Ledge. So maybe before I see that.
Cantor launching the crypto venture 21 Capital with Tether and SoftBank, also to buy BTC.
Yeah, that's the one. The one where I think Tether are providing like a ton of Bitcoin up front, and then they're kind of, their goal is just to accumulate more. So
just to revisit that. So that was in April. There we go. The combined vehicle is valued at $3.6 billion based on the Bitcoin price of nearly 85,000 back then, and 21 launching with more than 42,000 Bitcoins. So basically they are up 50% from that already when they launched.
Pretty tasty wins there. Big
nice $1.8 billion profit.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, when things work out with these kind of things, it feels great. When it doesn't work out, I guess it feels absolutely terrible. But yeah, I thought that was a big one because of who was involved and the numbers involved. So I wanted to bring that up to kind of just demonstrate more of this institutional demand coming. And then final headline of the day, we had news that Pump surged around 15% to around $6.7 billion FDV. I think it's probably retraced a touch to around 6.6 after $30 million of token buybacks. This was instigated yesterday from a tweet, which I will just read as it was written. Alon, the founder of Pump Fund, tweeted, "Bucket Jew mode." That's what he tweeted. And that was the signal to the market that buybacks were going to begin. Remember, there's basically been no official commentary on buybacks for Pump Fund. Like, people were maybe alleging that there would be. People were not 100% sure. Some people put out the figure of maybe 25% of revenue potentially would be the number, but completely unofficial and not confirmed. So the buybacks began. This tweet from Cyrus, who is
sorry to quickly interrupt you here, but did you see that Bloomberg just posted that in the comment? Isabel picked it up apparently. I
didn't know if that was real or not.
Yeah, I need to check if that's real, because if this is real, we probably need to bring that up as well, because it's hilarious.
It's pretty funny. So Cyrus, who's a super prominent trader, well respected, was kind of tracking the buybacks and shared this. The grand total of the buyback wallet in the end was $30 million, which is many multiples over their revenue at the moment. So I do not think this is something that would be routine. It was just showing what they were capable of doing. And then, as shared in the tweet, he shared that they just deposited another $16 million into that wallet. So, trying to put 2 and 2 together, you would imagine that there will be more coming today at some point. In his next tweet, and this probably discloses his bias at the moment, he shared buyback comparison. At the time of sharing the tweet, Bonk, which is their Pump's main launchpad competitor, had what was the 41st largest coin, whereas Pump was the 42nd. But he wrote Bonk Fund lifetime buybacks 20 mil, Pump Fund buybacks today 30 mil. So trying to push the idea, which I guess is justified, that Pump Fund has done more buybacks in one day than Bonk has done in its whole lifetime, and maybe will continue to do today. So we'll discuss that in a sec, but then maybe just an interesting take here from Beanie. We're curious for your thoughts on all of this. Pump Fund sold tokens at $0.004 a few days ago and are now buying back the same tokens with the same money for 0.006. Crypto is not a serious industry. Legendary. Your take on the buybacks that have been happening, the scale of the buybacks, and whether or not this is like a wise strategy.
I mean, I get it from an outside perspective. It kind of sounds weird to sell something to the market and then buy it back from the market 50% more expensive than you just sold it for a couple of days ago. But then there's also been a series of posts on the timeline which basically said, if the company is not willing to buy their own token, why should you even buy it? So we have moved to this use revenue to buy back the token kind of thing as a proxy to basically drive back value to token holders, because we obviously don't have dividend distribution, etc. on tokens. So it might sound ridiculous, but there's also a bit more context as to why we do that in this market.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I guess the question then becomes like, what's the right amount? Like, I don't know what the right amount is supposed to be. It seems quite helpful for Hyperliquid to have set the number, because then everyone kind of knows, like, right, 97% of revenue just goes back to buying tokens for the assistance fund. Whereas if you just kind of spray and pray every day, random amounts, I suspect the market gets a little bit uncertain of what your plan is. Maybe there will be a plan revealed. Maybe you just keep it random, and I'm not entirely sure. I think my preference is the Hyperliquid model, but obviously I think the Hyperliquid model, both of these businesses are strong businesses. The Hyperliquid business is the stronger business. So maybe that, in my opinion, maybe that shows that, maybe they can afford to be more consistent with it because of the way that they've designed the model and how the business is going. So I'm not 100% there. Thoughts on things moving forward. Ledger's become to the close today. I guess Pump is trading. Let's just double check where Pump is trading. It has gone straight into the top, or almost the top 50 of coins. It's dipped down a little bit now. So we're trading at around 6.3 billion FDV. It's got very close to tapping around 7 a couple of times now. One was before the token launched, and then the second time was after these buybacks yesterday. And it's just kind of retraced a little bit. Are you still positioning for this in any way? Do you think that this moves any more? Do you think this position for Pump Fund alongside Bonk around the top 50, the 50th position coin is about right? Or do you think this moves anymore?
So what I did is I did play the perps market. I did participate in the pre-sale. I sold after the pre-sale, and then I bought back in, and then I bridged it to Hyperliquid as UPump because it's a unit asset, so I get more unit asset exposure. I went to Project X and just this new liquidity and DEX, and yeah, It's a new DEX by Lambo, who did Pack Moon on Blast. And I set up a pool there where I'm basically DCAing out of pump at the moment. So the thinking is, even if there's like some impermanent loss, I am earning whatever unit metric will be tracked in the background, and we are earning points on project X. The APY on this pool is currently insane. It's a 2,000 something %. And I'm DCAing out of my pump exactly as I want to. So this is how I'm currently playing that.
Interesting. So long as pump goes up against hype, right?
Yes.
So if pump outperforms hype in your liquidity pool and then goes out of the bracket of liquidity provided, you will be out of pump and only be holding hype. But if pump goes down against hype, you would end up holding more pump, basically.
Yes.
I think I said that the right way around.
Yes. Just
basically, if pump price goes up, you end up with hype. If pump price goes down, you end up with pump.
Yeah.
Against hype. Okay. Interesting. The way I did this, I think I had one position open before launch, and I held it all the way through. Then I opened another one. I can't even remember when now. Well, I think I opened 2 before launch. Then I closed one for a small profit. Then I opened another one. And then I closed both this morning at around 6.7, which was like, it was an okay win. It was the first time I was really experimenting with the leverage side of things. So I thought it was pretty good. Like Hyperliquid is pretty awesome for that. So my experience was generally very good. I think that my learning would be I didn't get the best entries, and entry really matters. I think I was long from like 5.8 and 6.2 on different accounts. So yeah, entry points matter. I have a feeling this can go higher though. Like I'm kind of tempted to go again, but I think I want it to go a little bit lower from here potentially. Let's see. I'm not obligated to go back in. I think kind of made the first move, and my mind is moving to other things. But I think it could go higher actually. So I think I'm open to opening up another one maybe later today or tomorrow. Let's see. Not 100% sure there. Any final thoughts, Ledge, before we close out? We've actually run on time today. That's pretty good. Final thoughts.
Let's keep it like that. I'm only going to read Oxy's comment on YouTube. Also, if pump and hype continue to go up in unison, you earn fees into oblivion.
That's true.
I like oblivion fee earning.
That's very true, right? Because if you stay within the right fee, then you just people are using the liquidity pool. That's beautiful. That's maybe actually the best outcome of all of them, if you can do that. So there's something for you to do, guys. That is the end of our show today. We hope you enjoyed it. We do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify too. Thank you to Legendary for co-hosting with me, and we'll be back with you tomorrow, same time, same place, talking about this glorious market that just keeps going up. Hopefully it can continue to do that, and we'll see you then. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.